Hello and welcome into our Big Ten Network studios for this special edition of the Wrestling Report. This week we go beyond the conference and take a deeper look at a decision that has rocked the wrestling community. On Tuesday, February 12th, the executive board of the IOC voted to eliminate wrestling at the 2020 Olympics. This is not the final decision. The IOC will meet in May in St. Petersburg, where representatives will make presentations for inclusion of the 25 core sports in the 2020 Games. The final vote will be made in September. Wrestling has been an Olympic sport dating back to the ancient games in 708 BC. Since 1896, wrestling has been in the modern Olympics, including 26 straight games over a span of 112 years. More than 170 nations from all over the globe have competed, and in 1996 in Atlanta, 75 countries were represented. The Big Ten has brought home some hardware from the Olympic Games. Former Husker Jordan Burroughs is the most recent gold medalist, taking the title in freestyle at 74 kilos at the 2012 Olympics. Other notable medalists include Dan Gable, Tom Brands, and Cale Sanderson. And with President's Day fresh in our minds, 11 out of the 44 U.S. presidents were wrestlers. As you would imagine, the backlash from the wrestling community has been substantial. Several petitions have been written to the IOC, including one by former U.S. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, in which he writes, quote, "To abandon this great Olympic legacy would be a tragedy for the sport and for the proud tradition of the Olympic Games," end quote. This topic is also trending throughout social media. If you use the hashtag #SaveOlympicWrestling on Twitter, you will see an enormous amount of reaction and support. A Facebook page titled Save Olympic Wrestling already has 40,000 plus members. All in all, the international wrestling community is on a crusade to keep the sport in the 2020 Olympics. For more insight on the IOC's decision to eliminate wrestling in 2020, we now bring in Nebraska wrestling head coach Mark Manning in Lincoln, Nebraska. Mark, this was announced last Tuesday. Just give us your initial reaction when you heard that wrestling would not be in 2020 Olympics.
Well, like most people, very shocked. Wrestling's done so much for the people that are involved in the sport, obviously, but there's, from the grassroots level all the way through, high school and college and international level, there's it really impacts a lot of people. So, it was a shock last Tuesday.
Now, going along with that, the impact that this will have, let's just stay in the U.S. for now, on the youth development, high school, and collegiate level of wrestling, how grand will this impact be? Elaborate on that.
Well, it is two different sports, the international freestyle style and Greco-Roman and women's wrestling. It's a lot different. It's scored a lot differently than college and high school wrestling and youth wrestling. So it's kind of two different beasts, but it does because it impacts the 12-year-old kid out there, 10-year-old young man that has a dream of being an Olympic champion, and so it kind of takes the carrot away a little bit from that aspect. And not a lot of guys, even beyond the college level, our greatest college wrestlers go on to Olympic greatness or go on and pursue that dream. They go on and enter the business field or whatever academic endeavor they have mapped out for themselves. So it impacts a small number of people that way. But just the fact that you don't have an Olympic sport or recommended to have Olympic sport for 2020 is a big deal for our sport.
And Jordan Burroughs, who was a wrestler at Nebraska, competed in the 2012 Olympics and a gold medalist. Have you spoken with him regarding this subject? And if so, what has been exchanged?
Well, I spoke to Jordan through text messages because he had left, a few days before this announcement came down to represent U.S. in the World Cup this week in Tehran, Iran, ironically. So I know both USA Wrestling and Iran is working to try to implement some diplomacy to get wrestling back reinstated. But just through text messages, same thing. He's shocked, but also optimistic that this decision can get reversed.
Yeah, and going along with that, the IOC committee is meeting in Russia in May. Going through Twitter, going online, there are hashtags, Save Olympic Wrestling. A lot of former college athletes are outspoken about this. Dan Gable is also on board and doing a lot of this heavy lifting. What can be done from now until May when they meet that can help revoke or overturn this decision?
Well, I think there's some people, I know there's a lot of people, once the decision came out, that have instantly formed a group. I'm on an email list, so I kind of keep up to date. I can't be involved as much as I'd like to, but I know there's a few guys, both Huskers, Jim Shear and Bill Shear, that are playing big part in trying to get some things changed. And you know, they did. They made an impact from the leadership standpoint from FILA, International Governing Body for Wrestling. The leader, Ralphie Martinetti, stepped down. And so I think different leadership, new insight into a sport, changing some rules in regards to how the scoring and the excitement of our sport is viewed from, you know, not only from a national level but a global level, is those guys are really working, you know, hands-on with a lot of people involved with USA Wrestling. Rich Bender, Zeke Jones, our national coach. Coach Gable's involved with on that committee, Mike Novakratz, just many people that are really care about the sport, and sports impacted their life, and they understand it's going to, you know, it can impact, you know, generations down the road. So they're working hard, and I really feel, you know, they can play a big part come those meetings in May to really get the attention of the IOC board.
In that when they make this vote, wrestling is in a group with these other sports to be in the Olympics: baseball, softball, karate, squash, roller sports, climbing, wakeboarding, and the martial art of wushu. Wrestling is far different from those, but tell us why you think, and that the wrestling community thinks, that it deserves to be in the Olympics, and the fact that this dates back to Greco-Roman times and BC. But why wrestling? Why should it stay?
Well, all those sports are, you know, important to the people that are in those sports. So, number one, it's about why we feel wrestling is the most important. And that's from the standpoint, it does have a historical background. And, you know, just from the diversity, you know, the smallest young man out there or young girl to the biggest. So it's diverse population. And over 180 countries compete in wrestling worldwide. So it has a global impact, this decision does. So obviously us in America, there's over about 1 million wrestlers, but in Russia and Turkey and Iran and Japan, China, there's a lot of wrestlers that it's going to greatly impact that. And so, you know, for instance, Puerto Rico had a silver medalist this year, and also India had a silver medalist. Both really, those guys are superheroes when they go back to those countries, because they don't medal in many sports, and wrestling being one of them, that really is a big boost to wrestling and to that country. So that image of that country. So I think wrestling from the ground level teaches us so many lessons about, you know, wrestling's like life. You know, you're going to get knocked down. You got to be able to pick yourself up. And so from the moment you get in the sport, you know, from youth to high school to college and in international level, you're probably not going to go undefeated. So you know, in life there's going to be a lot of obstacles, and that's what the sport of wrestling really teaches us, is how to be self-reliant, to be persistent in your goals, and determined to reach those goals. And so wrestling's a great sport, and we'd hate to lose it on the international level.
Well, the community has certainly taken a little bit of hit with this decision, and hopefully you guys can learn from those experiences in the sport and come right back up and get this decision overturned. Mark Manning, thanks so much for the time.
Appreciate you having us on.